A chance encounter. The airport was a chaotic symphony of hurried footsteps, rolling suitcases, and muffled announcements crackling through the overhead speakers. People weaved in and out of each other's paths, some eager for reunions, others desperate to make their flights. Samantha Porter barely noticed the chaos around her. She was running late, her mind racing as she maneuvered through the bustling crowd. She had promised her younger sister, Olivia, that she would be there the moment she stepped off the plane. But life had a way of pulling her in different directions, and today had been no exception. Her shift at the diner had run longer than expected. A last-minute rush of customers, a spilled tray of drinks, and a broken cash register had kept her trapped far longer than she wanted. By the time she managed to clock out, grab her worn-out coat, and catch a bus to the airport, she was already pushing it. Flight 287 from London has now landed. Passengers will be arriving at gate C12. Samantha exhaled in relief. At least Olivia was on time. She quickened her pace, dodging travelers glued to their phones and parents trying to corral energetic children. Her eyes darted toward the arrivals board, confirming the flight status. Olivia should be stepping into the terminal any minute now. Her gaze flickered over the sea of faces, searching for the familiar curls of her sister. She stretched onto her toes, trying to peer over the crowd. But instead of spotting Olivia, her eyes landed on a tall, well-dressed man standing near the large floor-to-ceiling windows. He had his back to her, his posture relaxed yet commanding. His dark hair was neatly styled, and he wore a tailored charcoal gray suit that looked like it cost more than her entire year's salary. The way he carried himself, effortlessly confident yet strangely detached, caught her attention for reasons she couldn't quite explain. And for a split second, her exhausted mind tricked her. "Ethan," she muttered under her breath. She hadn't seen Olivia's best friend in years, but from behind, this man bore an uncanny resemblance to him. Ethan had always been tall and broad-shouldered, with a presence that made him stand out in a crowd. Samantha didn't hesitate. The exhaustion from her long shift, the stress of rushing to the airport, it all faded away. A genuine smile spread across her face as she pushed forward, weaving through the throngs of people. "Ethan," she called out. The man didn't turn. Maybe he didn't hear her. Without thinking, she closed the gap between them and wrapped her arms around him from behind in a warm, excited embrace. It wasn't until she felt the expensive fabric of his suit beneath her hands and inhaled the rich, unfamiliar scent of his cologne that something felt off. The man froze under her touch. A second too late, realization struck her like a lightning bolt. Oh, my God, this was not Ethan. Mortified, Samantha's heart slammed against her ribs as she yanked herself away. The man turned slowly, his expression unreadable. Deep blue eyes locked onto hers, filled with a mixture of amusement and curiosity. His sharp jawline, the hint of stubble along his chin, the way his lips curved into an almost smirk. Everything about him screamed wealth and sophistication. He looked at her as if she had just done something wildly unexpected, which, to be fair, she had. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Samantha opened her mouth, then closed it. Words failed her. What could she possibly say? She started, her face burning. "I am so sorry. I thought you were someone else." His gaze flickered over her, taking in her flushed cheeks, her messy ponytail, the faded apron she had forgotten to take off after her shift. And then, to her surprise, he smiled. "Well," he said, his voice smooth and deep, "that's definitely a first." Samantha wanted to die. Right here. Right now. "I really didn't mean to do that," she stammered, shifting awkwardly. "I was looking for someone, and you just looked like him from behind." He tilted his head slightly, his smirk deepening. Lucky guy, then. Was he flirting with her? No way. She had just accidentally hugged a total stranger in the middle of an airport. There was no way he found this remotely amusing, and yet he didn't seem the least bit annoyed. In fact, he looked intrigued. I should go," Samantha blurted, stepping back. "Sorry again. Super awkward. Won't happen again. Have a great life." Before she could flee, a familiar voice cut through the chaos. "Sam." Her head snapped toward the sound. "Olivia." Her sister was rushing toward her, pulling her suitcase behind her. Relief flooded Samantha's chest. Thank God. A distraction. She turned back to the man, intending to mumble one final apology before disappearing forever. But something stopped her. He was still watching her, a strange expression in his eyes, something unreadable, as if he was considering something, turning a thought over in his mind. And then, to her utter shock, he reached into the pocket of his sleek coat and pulled out a business card. "Before you run off," he said, holding it out to her, "take this." She hesitated. She didn't even know his name. Why was he giving her his card? Still, her fingers closed around it instinctively. "Liam Carter," she read aloud. The name sounded vaguely familiar. The man, Liam Carter, smiled. "I have a feeling our meeting wasn't as accidental as you think." With that cryptic remark, he turned and walked away, disappearing into the crowd. Samantha stared after him, completely stunned. "Sam," Olivia said breathlessly, finally reaching her. "Who was that?" Samantha could barely form an answer. Still gripping the business card, she turned it over, her breath catching as recognition finally dawned. Liam Carter, one of the richest men in the country. She had just accidentally hugged a billionaire. And he had given her his card. The unforgettable mistake. Samantha's fingers trembled as she stared at the card. The name printed in bold, elegant fonts seemed to glare back at her. Liam Carter. Even if she hadn't immediately recognized it, the sheer weight of realization now sank in like an anchor. She knew exactly who he was. A billionaire. A name whispered in business circles, splashed across Forbes magazine covers, and discussed on financial news networks. Owner of one of the biggest investment firms in the country. His company, Carter Enterprises, was a powerhouse in tech and real estate, with holdings in nearly every industry imaginable. And she had just hugged him, mistaken him for someone else, made a total fool of herself in front of a man who probably dined with CEOs and royalty on a daily basis. Oh, my God. Samantha barely heard Olivia's voice as her sister snatched the card from her hand. Liam Carter. The Liam Carter. Olivia's eyes widened. What did you just do? Samantha groaned, covering her face with her hands. I don't want to talk about it. Oh no. No. You have to talk about it. This is crazy. Did you just casually hug a billionaire at the airport? Olivia gawked at her like she had lost her mind. Like a full embrace. Yes, it was an accident. I thought he was Ethan, and by the time I realized, it was too late. Samantha groaned again, peeking through her fingers. And then he just stood there, all rich and amused, like this happens to him every day. Her sister let out a sharp laugh. I doubt billionaires get surprise hugged by random women at airports often. Samantha snatched the card back, staring at it like it was evidence of a crime. He gave me this before he left. What does that even mean? Olivia leaned in. It means he wants to see you again. No way. That makes no sense. Samantha shook her head, her brain refusing to accept the possibility. Why would someone like him care about some waitress who made a complete idiot of herself? Because you're not just some waitress, Olivia said matter-of-factly. You're my amazing sister, and maybe, just maybe, he found you interesting. Samantha snorted. More like entertaining. Same thing, Olivia teased. So, are you going to call him? Samantha hesitated, staring at the card again. Was she? Every logical part of her screamed that this was ridiculous, that someone like Liam Carter was so far out of her league, they weren't even playing the same sport. He probably handed out business cards the way normal people exchanged pleasantries. And yet, his words still lingered in her mind. I have a feeling our meeting wasn't as accidental as you think. What did he mean by that? The sound of Olivia's stomach growling interrupted her spiraling thoughts. Okay, enough about billionaire encounters. I need food. Now, Olivia declared, dragging her suitcase toward the exit. Can we talk about this over some greasy diner food? Samantha exhaled, tucking the card into her pocket. Fine. But no more billionaire talk. Olivia grinned. No promises. A few days later, Samantha sat at the kitchen table, staring at the card. She had left it untouched for days, buried under a pile of unopened mail. But no matter how much she ignored it, she couldn't stop thinking about it. Would it really hurt to just see what he wanted? It wasn't like she had anything to lose. Before she could overthink it, she pulled out her phone and dialed the number. 1 ring. 2. 3. A smooth male voice answered. Liam Carter speaking. Samantha's throat went dry. He actually answered. For a second, she forgot how to talk. Hi, she blurted out. This is, Samantha. From the airport. A brief pause. Then, a deep chuckle. I was beginning to think you weren't going to call. She swallowed. I wasn't. I was, but I wasn't sure if you meant for me to actually. Liam cut in smoothly, amusement lacing his tone. Relax, Samantha. I gon' bite. She exhaled, gripping the phone tighter. Okay. So, why did you give me your card? I wanted to see you again. Samantha blinked. What? You? What? Liam chuckled again. You intrigue me. She couldn't tell if he was being serious, or if this was just some rich guy game. I don't get it. I'm not. Not what? Not someone people like you usually notice, she admitted. People like me. Rich, powerful, important. She sighed. I'm just a girl who works at a diner. Liam was silent for a moment. Then he said, how about you let me decide who I want to notice? Her heart skipped. This was insane. Crazy. But for some reason, she found herself saying, okay. When? Tomorrow. I'll pick you up at 7. She hesitated. I don't really go to fancy places. Liam chuckled. Then I'll take you somewhere that's not fancy. A pause. Then, before she could talk herself out of it, she said, okay. I'll text you the details, Liam said. See you tomorrow, Samantha. Click. She stared at the phone. What had she just agreed to? She had accidentally hugged a billionaire. And now she had a date with him. An unlikely date. Samantha spent the next 24 hours trying to convince herself she wasn't actually going on a date with a billionaire. But no matter how many times she tried to downplay it, the reality stared her right in the face. Liam Carter had asked her out, and she had said yes. Now, standing in front of her tiny bedroom mirror, she ran her fingers over the fabric of her best dress, a simple navy blue wrap dress that hugged her curves in all the right places, not too fancy. Not too casual. Safe. Her stomach twisted with nerves. Are you sure about this? Olivia asked, lounging on the bed as she scrolled through her phone. What if he's one of those rich guys who plays games for fun? Samantha exhaled, adjusting her hair. I don't know. But he doesn't seem like that. He could have just laughed at me at the airport and left. But he didn't. Olivia arched an eyebrow. That's fair. But still, billionaires don't randomly go after normal girls like us. I know, Samantha admitted. But maybe he's different. Olivia snorted. Or maybe he's a bored billionaire looking for a distraction. Gee, thanks for the confidence boost, Samantha muttered. Olivia grinned, just being real. But hey, if he turns out to be an arrogant snob, at least you get a free meal. Right? Samantha laughed despite her nerves. Right. A soft chime from her phone made her stomach flip. A text from Liam. I'm outside. Take your time. No rush. Samantha took a deep breath. Here goes nothing. The surprise destination. She stepped outside to find Liam leaning against a sleek, black SUV parked at the curb. He wasn't in a stiff business suit this time, just a fitted black button-down, with the sleeves rolled up, dark jeans, and a watch that probably cost more than her rent for a year. And somehow, that made him even more intimidating. He looked up and smiled. "You look beautiful." Heat rushed to her cheeks. "Oh, thanks. You don't look too bad yourself." He smirked, opening the car door for her. "Ready? Where are we going?" she asked as she slid into the passenger seat. Liam got in and started the engine. "It's a surprise." She raised an eyebrow. That sounds suspiciously like something rich guys say before taking people to five-star restaurants. Liam chuckled. "I promised you it wouldn't be fancy. I keep my promises, Samantha." She bit her lip. Why did that make her heart race? The unexpected date. 20 minutes later, Samantha found herself standing in front of something she never expected. A food truck park. She blinked, taking in the neon-lit stalls, the sound of sizzling food, and the mouth-watering scents of tacos, burgers, and fresh pastries. Liam glanced at her reaction, amused. "Not what you were expecting." She let out a surprised laugh. "Not at all." "You said you don't do fancy," he said with a shrug. "So I figured this would be more fun." Samantha stared at him, stunned. Billionaires weren't supposed to think like this. They were supposed to take dates to Michelin-star restaurants with gold-plated forks, not bring them to casual food trucks where people sat on picnic benches. And yet, the way Liam looked at her, waiting for her approval, made something inside her soften. She smiled. "Okay, Mr. Billionaire, impress me with your food truck skills." Liam grinned. Challenge accepted. A different side of Liam Carter. They spent the next hour trying different foods: spicy fish tacos, Korean BBQ sliders, and deep-fried Oreos that Liam insisted she try. Samantha couldn't stop laughing. Liam, the billionaire, had a chocolate smear on the corner of his mouth and didn't even notice. "You've got something." She reached forward before she could stop herself, wiping it off with her thumb. Liam froze. Her breath hitched as his blue eyes locked onto hers. A spark of something passed between them. Something that made her heart hammer in her chest. Something dangerous. She quickly pulled back, clearing her throat. "Ugh. So, do you do this often? Bring random girls to food trucks?" Liam smirked. "No, this is new." She raised an eyebrow. "Oh, so what do your usual dates look like?" "Boring," he admitted. "Dinner with people who only care about money, who rehearse their conversations like business meetings." He looked at her. This is better." Samantha stared at him. Was he serious? Liam Carter, the billionaire, actually preferred this over his high society world. She shook her head. "I don't get it. You could be anywhere, with anyone. Why waste your time with me?" His expression softened. "Because you're real." Her breath caught. For a second, she didn't know what to say. Then, trying to break the tension, she teased, "So what you're saying is, I'm cheap entertainment." Liam threw his head back, laughing. Something like that. The walk that changed everything. After finishing their food, they walked through a quiet park nearby, the city lights glowing in the distance. Samantha stuffed her hands into her pockets, feeling oddly at ease. "Okay, serious question." Liam glanced at her. "Hit me. If you weren't rich, what would you be doing?" Liam thought for a moment, then said, "Probably running a small cafe somewhere." She stopped walking. "Wait, what?" Liam chuckled at her reaction. "Yeah, my grandfather owned a little coffee shop when I was a kid. I used to help out during summers. I loved it." Samantha blinked. She had expected something grand, something that screamed wealth and ambition. But a cafe. "That's unexpected," she admitted. Liam smiled. "I like simple things. But in my world, simple isn't an option." For the first time, She saw something beyond the billionaire exterior. Something lonely. Before she could think, she said, "Well, if you ever get tired of being rich, you can come work at my diner." Liam grinned. "I might just take you up on that." She laughed, but deep down she wondered. Had she completely misjudged him? Was there more to Liam Carter than she thought? And more importantly, was she in trouble? Because this was starting to feel real. And that was the most terrifying part of all. The billionaire's world. Samantha had expected the night to end at the food truck park. She had expected Liam to drive her home, say a polite goodbye, and maybe, send her a text the next day. What she hadn't expected was for him to invite her into his world. An invitation she couldn't refuse. As they walked back to his car, Liam hesitated for the first time that night. He rubbed the back of his neck, looking almost nervous. He cleared his throat. "There's this event tomorrow." Samantha tilted her head. "Event? A charity gala. Big, fancy, over the top. The kind of thing you'd probably roll your eyes at," he admitted with a smirk. Samantha grinned. "Sounds about right." Liam exhaled, looking at her. "I'd like you to come with me." She froze. "Me?" "Yes, you." Samantha blinked. "Liam, I don't own anything remotely appropriate for a gala. My wardrobe consists of diner uniforms and thrift store finds." "I'll take care of that," he said immediately. She frowned. "I'm not letting you buy me a dress." He sighed, shaking his head. "I wasn't going to buy you a dress." She crossed her arms. "Oh, really?" He chuckled. "Okay, maybe I was. But if it makes you uncomfortable, you can borrow one from a stylist I know. No strings attached." Samantha hesitated. The idea of stepping into Liam Carter's world terrified her. But deep down, she couldn't ignore the tiny thrill racing through her veins. A night in a billionaire's world. Just one night. What could go wrong? She bit her lip. "Okay, but if I trip and embarrass myself, I'm blaming you." Liam grinned. "Deal." A Cinderella transformation. The next day, Samantha found herself in a luxurious private suite at a designer boutique, and she had no idea how she got there. "This is insane," she muttered under her breath as she ran her fingers over the racks of elegant gowns. Each dress looked like it belonged to royalty. "See anything you like?" a warm voice asked. Samantha turned to find a tall, graceful woman with sleek black hair and a measuring tape draped around her neck. I don't even know where to start," Samantha admitted. The woman smiled. "I'm Victoria. Liam told me to take good care of you." Samantha scoffed. "Of course he did." Victoria chuckled and pulled a shimmering midnight blue gown from the rack. "Try this. It'll match your eyes." Samantha slipped into the dress and stared at herself in the mirror, stunned. For the first time in her life, she looked elegant. Would Liam even recognize her? Would she recognize herself? Stepping into his world, the gala was being held at a massive estate in the hills, a place so extravagant Samantha couldn't even dream of affording a ticket. As Liam's car pulled up to the grand entrance, she gripped her clutch tightly, taking a deep breath. She could do this. Just one night. Liam stepped out first, looking every bit the powerful billionaire in his tailored black tuxedo. He walked around to her side, opening the door with an easy confidence. When she stepped out, Liam froze. His blue eyes slowly traveled over her from head to toe, and for the first time since meeting him, he looked completely speechless. "You, wow." His voice was husky. Samantha blushed. "I clean up okay, I guess." Liam exhaled, offering her his arm. "You look stunning." She took it, her heart pounding. "Let's get this over with." He smirked. That's the spirit. The glare of high society. The moment they stepped inside, Samantha could feel the stares. Men in tailored suits, women in glittering gowns, all of them whispered, their curious gazes locked onto her. "Who's that with Liam Carter? Never seen her before." She doesn't look like his type. Samantha swallowed hard. This was a mistake. She had never felt so out of place in her life. Liam must have sensed her discomfort because he leaned down and whispered, "Ignore them." She forced a smile. Easier said than done. A woman in a crimson dress approached them, her smile dripping with false sweetness. "Liam, darling," she purred. "And who's this?" Liam's jaw tightened. "This is Samantha." The woman's gaze flickered over Samantha like she was assessing her value. "How charming." Samantha clenched her teeth. "Charming." Liam, clearly unimpressed, wrapped a protective arm around Samantha's waist. "Excuse us," he said smoothly, leading Samantha away before the woman could say anything else. Samantha exhaled. "Who was that?" "My ex." She blinked. "Oh, awkward." He smirked. "You have no idea." Dancing with the billionaire. As the night wore on, Liam introduced Samantha to various people, some kind, some insufferably snobbish. But through it all, Liam never left her side. And when the music shifted into a slow, elegant melody, Liam turned to her. "Dance with me." Samantha's eyes widened. I don't know how." His lips curved into a teasing smile. "I don't believe that." She groaned. "Fine, but if I step on your foot, it's your fault for asking." Liam laughed and took her hand, pulling her effortlessly onto the dance floor. His hand rested gently on her waist, guiding her. She looked up at him, and for a moment, everything else disappeared. The whispers, the stares, the nerves. All she could see was him. "You're doing great," he murmured. She rolled her eyes. "You're just saying that." Liam smirked. "Maybe. But I'd be lying if I said I wasn't impressed." Samantha's heart pounded. This was dangerous. Liam Carter was dangerous. Because the way he looked at her, like she was the only person in the room, it made her wonder if maybe, just maybe, this wasn't a game to him after all. And that thought terrified her more than anything. The moment that changed everything. As the dance ended, Liam led her out to the quiet balcony, away from the crowd. The city lights stretched before them, glittering like stars. Samantha exhaled. "This is surreal." Liam watched her, his gaze intense. "I meant what I said." She glanced at him. "About what?" "About you being different." She swallowed. "Liam." But before she could finish, he reached up, tucking a loose strand of hair behind her ear. His touch sent electricity racing down her spine. "I don't bring just anyone into my world, Samantha," he said quietly. Her breath hitched, because the way he was looking at her, like she was the most important thing in the world. It was too much. So before she could do something reckless, like kiss him, Samantha took a step back. "I should go." Liam's eyes darkened, but he nodded. "I'll take you home." And as she walked away, her heart pounded with one undeniable truth. She was falling for Liam Carter. And it was the worst mistake of her life. A billionaire's heart. Samantha had spent the entire night tossing and turning. She should have been exhausted after the gala, after stepping into a world she didn't belong to, after pretending to be someone she wasn't, after dancing with Liam Carter under the golden glow of chandeliers. But her mind refused to shut off. Liam had looked at her like she was special, like she was more than just a waitress he had met by accident, like he actually cared. And that scared her more than anything. Because if she let herself believe it, if she let herself hope, it would hurt that much more when reality came crashing down. Billionaires didn't fall for girls like her. And yet, the next morning, as she trudged into the diner for her shift, she couldn't help but wonder, what if? A surprise visitor. Samantha was exhausted. She had barely gotten 4 hours of sleep, and the morning rush at the diner wasn't making things any easier. She balanced a tray of pancakes and coffee, dodging a group of kids running between tables. Table 5. Joe, the short-tempered line cook, barked from the kitchen. "Got it," she called back. But as she turned toward the booth, her breath caught in her throat. Sitting there, in the same expensive suit from the night before, was Liam Carter. Samantha froze. He didn't belong here. Not in her world. And yet he was sitting in her diner, tapping his fingers on the table like he came here all the time. What the hell was he doing? Gathering herself, she marched up to his booth, setting down a menu with more force than necessary. "What are you doing here?" she demanded. Liam smirked. "Good morning to you too." She folded her arms. "Liam, I wanted breakfast," he said, completely unfazed. "Is that a crime?" "You're a billionaire," she said flatly. "You could eat at the best restaurants in the city. You don't need to be here." He leaned forward, resting his elbows on the table. "Maybe I wanted to see you." Samantha's heart skipped a beat. She hated how effortlessly he got under her skin. "You don't have to do this," she muttered. "You don't have to pretend like last night meant anything." Liam frowned. "What makes you think I'm pretending?" She stared at him. "Because guys like you don't go for girls like me." Liam's expression hardened. "You don't get to decide what kind of guy I am," he said quietly. Samantha opened her mouth to argue, but before she could, the bell above the door jingled. She turned, expecting another customer. Instead, she found herself face to face with someone she never wanted to see again. A blast from the past. Her ex-boyfriend, Derek. Samantha's stomach dropped. It had been nearly a year since she had last seen him, but he still looked the same, cocky smirk, leather jacket, and the same arrogant swagger that made her regret ever dating him. "Samantha," he said smoothly, "long time no see." Her grip tightened around her tray. "What do you want, Derek?" she asked through gritted teeth. He smirked. "What? No warm welcome? Come on, baby, I was just in the neighborhood." Liam's eyes flicked between them, his posture immediately shifting. "Who's this?" he asked, his voice cool. Samantha clenched her jaw. "No one important." Derek chuckled. "Aw, don't be like that, sweetheart." His eyes landed on Liam, narrowing slightly. "Who's the suit?" Liam leaned back, crossing his arms. "Her friend." Derek's smirk widened. "Friend, huh? Didn't think you went for the rich type, Sam." Samantha's blood boiled. Liam, however, remained calm. But his blue eyes were sharp, calculating. "I don't like your tone," Liam said evenly. Derek scoffed. "And I don't like some billionaire playing pretend with my girl." Samantha snapped. "I am not your girl," she hissed. "Not anymore." Derek's smirk faltered for a split second, but he recovered quickly. "Come on, Sam. We had fun, didn't we?" Liam's jaw tightened. "That's enough," he said, his voice laced with quiet authority. Derek raised an eyebrow. "What, you gonna throw money at me to make me leave?" Liam didn't even blink. "No, but I'll make sure you never step foot in this place again." For a moment, tension crackled between them. Then, Derek laughed. "Relax, suit. I was just saying hello." He winked at Samantha. "I'll see you around, babe." And with that, he turned and walked out, the door slamming behind him. Samantha let out a slow, shaky breath. Liam was watching her closely. "You okay?" he asked softly. She swallowed. "Yeah, just old memories." Liam's expression darkened. "Did he ever hurt you?" She hesitated. "Not physically. But the emotional scars, those were still there." Liam's hands curled into fists. "If he ever bothers you again, tell me." Samantha shook her head. "I don't need you to fight my battles, Liam." "I know you don't," he said quietly. "But that doesn't mean I won't." Samantha's heart ached. Why did he have to be like this? Why did he have to care? She exhaled. "Your pancakes are getting cold." Liam smirked. "Guess you'll just have to bring me fresh ones tomorrow." She rolled her eyes. "Are you planning on making this a habit?" He grinned. "You tell me." And just like that, Samantha knew. Liam Carter wasn't walking away from her. Not now. Not ever. The promise of forever. Samantha had always believed in boundaries. Some people belonged to a different world, one she had no place in. Liam Carter was that world. Yet, here he was, sitting in her diner, eating pancakes like a regular guy, defending her against the ghosts of her past, refusing to let her go. And that terrified her. Because if Liam wasn't letting go, she would have to make the impossible choice, running from feelings. For the next week, Liam came to the diner every single morning. It didn't matter if she ignored him. It didn't matter if she tried to keep the conversation short. He was there. At first, Samantha thought it was a game. Billionaires had their pick of anything: cars, houses, people. Was she just another distraction? But Liam was patient. He didn't push her, didn't demand anything. He just showed up. And that was worse. Because every day she spent with him, every smile, every moment, he became harder to walk away from. So she did the only thing she could. She ran. The goodbye that wasn't goodbye. It was late one evening when Samantha made her decision. She would quit the diner. Move away. There was nothing tying her down. She had scraped together enough savings for a fresh start. And Liam Carter? He was never supposed to be permanent. But fate had other plans. Just as she stepped outside, suitcase in hand, Liam was waiting. Samantha's breath caught. He was leaning against his car, arms crossed, blue eyes watching her with undeniable disappointment. "You weren't even going to say goodbye?" he asked softly. Samantha's fingers tightened around the handle of her suitcase. "Liam, You're running," he said, stepping closer. "Why?" She swallowed hard. "Because this isn't real." His jaw clenched. "You think I'm playing games?" She shook her head. "I think you're trying to be kind. But I'm not some rich socialite. I don't belong in your world." Liam's expression hardened. "And what if I don't care about that?" Samantha's heart ached. "That's easy for you to say now," she whispered. "But one day, you'll wake up and realize I'm not enough." Liam exhaled sharply. Then, before she could react, he stepped forward, cupped her face in his hands, and kissed her. The world disappeared. Every wall she had built, every excuse, every reason, melted. Liam kissed her like he was proving something, like he was staking his claim. When he pulled away, his gaze burned into hers. "I don't want perfection," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "I don't want high society, or fake people who smile for the cameras." His thumb brushed her cheek. "I want you, Samantha." Her eyes filled with tears. Why did he have to say that? Why did he have to believe in her when she had spent her whole life convincing herself she wasn't worthy of love? "I don't know how to do this," she admitted, voice trembling. Liam smiled. "Then let's figure it out together. A different kind of love story." Samantha never got on the bus that night. She didn't leave town. She didn't run. Instead, she let Liam Carter hold her hand, take her home, and show her what love really looked like. Not a fairy tale. Not a billionaire rescuing a poor girl. Just two people from different worlds, finding something that mattered. Something real. And for the first time in her life, Samantha let herself believe. Because maybe, just maybe, some love stories weren't about who you were. They were about who you chose to fight for. And Liam, he had chosen her.